center, because we'll have a marching band that will take us from there up into the town center, where we'll have an evening of entertainment, wonderful entertainment that we'll have for you on Thursday. So please come out and support what we are doing. Now, it is my belief that we, as a people, need to show our patriotism. We need to be more patriotic as a people to this country. If we don't, some of the good around us we will not even observe. The bad will overtake us. You know, and I want to say this, that many times we complain about things around us. We complain about the government. What is the government doing for us? Things need to be better. Things hard. Well, I'm here to say that if we don't change the way we do things, it's not going to get better for us. We cannot depend anymore on the government because they have done a lot. They have given us the security forces. They are working for our safety and our protection. Yes? That doesn't mean we should be careless. We can do a lot. And the more we complain about our society, we are complaining about ourselves. We are complaining about our parents. Yes? We are complaining about our friends. Because we are the people who must build this beautiful country of ours. Would you agree with me? Yes, sir. Yes. It takes us to do it. So every one of us has a part to play. And I want to place an emphasis on the indiscipline of our society. I'll be bold enough to say it started at home. Not school, not church, not out in the community. Because if we guide our children from early, they will grow the way they should grow. Yes? And when we fail, what we do, we hand them over to the police officers and say, boy, deal with this man for me. We can turn gunman into bad man into push drugs. Right? We hand them over to the hospitals because they live carelessly and become injured. And we ask them to deal with them for us. Ladies and gentlemen, let us as a people build our country. Let us as a people be mindful of the things around us that we need to fix. And one of the initiatives that you will see here in Manchester from my office is that many buildings, not only government buildings, you'll see the national flag flying as of yesterday. Right? Today mine was up at my office. You will see it. I have 6 other companies that came on board and joined this initiative, and they will have the Jamaican flag flying as a show of our patriotism to this country. We can do it, you know. We can do it, and we don't have to think of the very big things. But the little things can have big effects. I'm not going to speak much. I'm not going to speak any longer, because we have put together a great panel to guide us. They will present to us and they will guide us as to what we can do to make ourselves and our community safer. Our moderator will be one of our own, Mr. Margal Virgo. I'm not introducing them, I'm just telling them because someone will introduce them. We have Mr. Christopher Sr., a security practitioner, I would say. He owns Century Security. Our Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Michael Smith. Dr. Jason McKay, criminologist. We all should know him. Lieutenant Commander George Overton, another security practitioner from the Guardsman Group. And I want to say a very special thanks to him, not just for the sponsorship, but he has worked assiduously. He has got a attendant of police who is the new commander-in-chief for the parish of Manchester. He took up office here just yesterday. Superintendent Shane McCullough, please stand, sir, so we can... And the microphone is yours, if you just want to say a few words before we get much further. It's not on the program, but it is very fitting for our police chief to greet us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Costas. Members on the panel, and to the citizens of Manchester and the audience. I was told when I was transferred that I'm coming to the best parish in Jamaica, right? And I am also aware that there are some issues. It is just my second day, and I already feel like I have been here 6 months, based on the different requests that have been coming in, the different persons that have been visiting, and they have been speaking to me about a number of things that they would want the police to do for them, all right? But one request that I would make of the citizens of this lovely parish, and it's my first time in the parish, all right, is for the cooperation and support. My concept about security is that it's a team effort, all right? So whilst the police deal with the hardcore elements and the public order issues, it is security is something that requires the participation and the commitment of the persons residing in the parish. Because the concept of security, as our ACP will tell you, and what he has told me yesterday, and what I believe in at other divisions that I've worked, is that security is a business. And it's a business that involves partnership of the police and the citizens. It can't work any other way. So my commitment is that I am here to serve the persons of Manchester, and I'm also asking for your support and for your cooperation as we go on this journey of ensuring that the parish achieves that Vision 2030 that is set out for Jamaica. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Costas, and thank you, Superintendent McCullough, and I must extend my own welcome to Mandeville. I'd also like to take this opportunity to recognize members of your team, because you know you alone can't do it, right? Right, so I'd like to recognize Colin McKenzie, Crime Officer for Mandeville. So McKenzie could just turn to the audience. Inspector Berthlyn Lloyd. Yes. Corporal Smichael. I have other members, but I'll get your names later on, all right? I also want to recognize Mr. Renox Seavright from Northern Caribbean University. He's the Director of Campus Safety and Security. All right, Costas is making up with me, you know, that's why he's helping me to do the introduction, but I'll take it a little further. So thank you, Costas. So our esteemed panel, who have traveled from Kingston to be here with us, we want to say thank you so much. And so it is my privilege to introduce to you our panel, who come to us with our panelists who come to us with a diverse range of knowledge and experiences to share with us lessons that we will not see in a textbook. So I'm going to start with Mr. Michael Smith. He's the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Area 3. And Assistant Commissioner Smith has been a veteran police officer for many years. He has served for some time as the Commandant of the Police Academy, St. Catherine, and has also served somewhere as Divisional Commander. He has been promoted to the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of Area 3 Division, that's Mandeville, and Area 3 comprises of the parishes of Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Clarendon. He's married and is a Minister of Religion. Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Michael Smith. Then we have our Lieutenant Commander, George Overton. Lieutenant Commander Overton has been a security practitioner for over 45 years. He first served the Jamaica Defense Force for 15 years before retiring his commission in 1989. In that year, in 1989, he joined the Guardsman group of companies where he had headed the group's armored car operations, electronic security operations, special investigations unit. He has been a director of Guardsman Limited and Marksman Limited since 1994, and was responsible for establishing the Guardsman brand in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, and Barbados. He is currently the president of the Jamaica Society for Industrial Security, the umbrella body for the security companies. He is also the chairman of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ Standing Committee on National Security and Justice, and a member of the Consensus Oversight Monitoring Committee of the National Consensus on Crime. Lieutenant Commander George Overton, and he's also a JP. Then we have Dr. Jason Mackay. Dr. Mackay, I know you before you know me. I always see you on TV. Dr. Jason Mackay is a holder of a doctorate in criminal justice from Nova Southeastern University, Florida in 2020, a Master of Science in Criminology from the University of Leicester, England in 2009. He was a forensic investigator in 2001, Metropolitan Police Institute, Florida, hostage negotiator, 2005 at the Institute of Police Management, University of North Florida, SWAT Command and Operations at the Public Safety Institute and University of North Florida, Advanced Homicide Investigations, Miami-Dade Police Training Institute. He has been the CEO of Mackay Security since 2001 to present. District Constable of the JCF St. Catherine South Police Division Special Operations Unit. His other areas of expertise include a 6th-degree black belt Taekwondo and blood spatter analyst. That is Dr. Jason Mackay. And we have, last but no means least, Mr. Christopher Senior. Mr. Senior is a general manager of Sentry Services Security Company Limited, which has been in the security industry for over 18 years. He's currently the General Secretary for Jamaica Society for Industrial Security, a family life ministry activist, and a former elder at Swallowfield Chapel. So here we have Mr. Christopher Senior. And you know, I'm not sure if you noticed that not only that they're in law enforcement, they are also ministers. So ministering, and you know, we expect much of you when it comes to crime and resolution, right? There you go. And so at this time, I'm going to ask that our moderator, I haven't forgotten him, but I would like Sidoni, please come and introduce our moderator.
All protocols observed, good evening. I deem it an honor to introduce an incredible young man this evening. Mr. Markel Virgo is an attorney at law presently employed to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation as a legal officer. Mr. Virgo is a graduate of the University of West Indies, Mona, and the Norman Manley Law School. He was called to the Jamaican bar in 2018 and is presently a successful lawyer. He is a born and bred Manchesterian, started his education at Bel-Air Preparatory School, then transitioned to Decartric College. At Decartric College, he served as head boy in 2012 to 2013. Among his present community service involvements, he is a member of the board of directors at Mona Preparatory School and is also an executive member of the Decartric College Alumni Association. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Mr. Markel Virgo, our moderator for this afternoon program.
Right, good. Lieutenant Colonel, the Honorable Garfield Green, Custos Rotulorum of Manchester, Miss Sophia Morgan, Justice of the Peace, Master of Ceremonies, members of the panel, members of the organizing team, fellow Manchesterians, fellow Jamaicans, a very good, it's 6:01. Good afternoon to you all. Let me begin my brief remarks by thanking the Honorable Custos for his kind invitation to serve as the moderator for the panel discussion. I deem it a great honor to be asked by you, sir, to come home and to serve. And I think I'll make a little sly remark to say that you have been able to do what even my parents seem to have a hard time to get me to do, and that is to come home during the week and after work to come to Mandeville. But I still thank you, sir, for the kind invitation, and I'd also like to take the time to salute you and your office for the fine work that you have been doing in terms of the Values and Attitudes Initiative for Manchester and other initiatives to really promote pride in this parish, pride in our nation. And I, sir, would like to salute you and your office and your team for the fine work that you are doing in that regard, and I would encourage you to keep it up. You know you have my full support. So, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you well, and I'd like to begin make some brief remarks by saying this. And it has been said in some measure by some of the previous speakers. Jamaica is by far the best place to live in. And I say that with every measure of authority, and I say that without fear of being argued with or being debated. Ours is the best little island ever on God's green earth. And certainly the best parish to come from is the parish of Manchester. So no matter, and I'll tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll tell you this, even though at present I live and I work in Kingston, but I always say to persons that everything that is right with Jamaica comes from the parish of Manchester. And I dare anybody to come and tell me otherwise. Everything that is right with Jamaica comes from the parish of Manchester. And then here's some things that we need to consider. That notwithstanding the country and the parish that we live in, this is this thing called crime, and you've heard it said earlier by the Custos, by our Master of Ceremonies, about the kind of time that Manchester used to be, the kind of place, the kind of parish that Manchester used to be. Peaceful, loving. You would never hear about anything happening in Manchester. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a story. One of the duties that our Custos Rotulorum has relates to the opening of the circuit court for each term, to meet the circuit court judge who will be coming to preside at circuit court in the parish, and leading the ceremony and the guard of honor to open the term of the circuit court for the parish. Now, I happen to know a very senior, now retired former director of public prosecutions, and he actually indicated to me of a time not too long ago in the parish of Manchester, where in the parish of Manchester there was actually a time where, because there was no case on the circuit court listing for the term, the only thing that would take place during the ceremony was that the circuit court judge would come to the parish, the Custos would greet him as is his duty, as a symbol to say, you have nothing on the list to be tried, sir. Unfortunately, gone are those days, Custos. Would you want to have that kind of tradition? Oh, absolutely. But we know that gone are those days. So, we're talking about crime. Crime has crippling effects, not just on our country on the macroeconomic level, but it has impact on the individual at the microeconomic level. Serious economic effects. When someone is killed, murdered, a family loses a breadwinner, a company, an organization loses a dedicated employee sometimes, a club, a church, some kind of organization loses a committed member. And that comes with economic effects, that comes with psychological effects, it comes with social effects. And think also on the wider level, the effects that crime has. I mean, people, we tired, you know. I'm sure that our law enforcement officials, you guys are tired and you need to rest. And your caseloads are so heavy and oftentimes beyond your capacity. I mean, your capacity to manage the work and our capacity as taxpayers to pay you for the hard work that you do. Ripple effects on our families, our healthcare system, our court system, our law enforcement systems, and even our political system. So it is hoped that this evening, ladies and gentlemen, we'll use this time not just to celebrate the fact that Jamaica 60 is upon us, but also to cerebrate with an R, meaning to use our heads, to use our minds, to discuss these issues and to see what we can do as citizens to protect ourselves, to take better care of ourselves, and to take better care of each other, those we love, our neighbors, and those around us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to the presentations by our esteemed panel this evening, and I look forward to you asking your burning questions at the appropriate time. I'll take this time before I take my seat just to welcome those who are joining us via the virtual platform, and we thank Vision TV Network for providing the live streaming services. And we will do I'll try to do my best as moderator to see how best I can field those questions that may be coming in from our online viewers, because our online viewers are just as important as our face-to-face audience. So I will try my best to field those questions as well. And I'm hoping, Ms. Morgan, that I can get some assistance in that regard as well from your team. Thank you very much. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we move now to the presentations of our panelists in the order that you see in your program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Virgo. And you see what is happening? I just keep getting help. Yes? And I want to thank you for acknowledging our people in the online space. Yes, you're very important to this event also. And as Mr. Virgo mentioned, we will be moving in some presentations by our esteemed panelists. And after that, then we'll move into the panel discussion. And we are inviting you to participate. We want to hear from you. So even though they'll be giving you information, we also want to hear your experiences, hear your views, your opinions, because all of that combines help us to move forward. All right? So at this time, we're going to ask ACP Michael Smith to give his presentation of the crime statistics and policing.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honorable Custos and my esteemed panel, it is indeed my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. I'm representing the Commissioner of Police, who is unavoidably absent at this time. He wanted to be here with you to celebrate this week of activities, and especially in this, as Costas would have called it, our anti-crime seminar. You know, we're in a very challenging environment, and you're aware of the new paradigm shift as it relates to the development of our youth and the impact and the effect that it's now creating on law enforcement in Jamaica. And Manchester is no different, because Manchester is just a parish within Jamaica, and you are aware of what is taking place, and especially with the age groups that are involved in serious and violent crimes within our space. So most of what is happening is motivated by greed and the desire for financial gains. If you notice, ladies and gentlemen, that robberies and accusatory crimes have increased, and it is seriously motivated by greed and the desire for financial gain. I also want to mention another observation that we would have made in the shift: anger and the risk of violence through that type of behavior has escalated, and especially after dark, and that is evidenced by murders and shootings. So the security landscape is a very challenging one, and it sometimes prevents the law enforcement officers, us, to have proper plan for critical coverage, and critical coverage is one of the strategies that we use to treat with the assessment of the different communities, and so that we can be stabilized, and when something happens, we respond within a given period of time. So the critical coverage really is one of the methods that we use to put structure and systems within the space by knowing all the communities and the community dimensions and all the activities that takes place by assessment and analysis. And so when we do that, it gives us an in-depth knowledge of the activities, so we plan critical coverage as one of our mitigation strategy to treat with the different communities. So also, one of the issues that we're treating with is the issue of corruption. And you know, corruption erodes public confidence. And from time to time, we will have to deal with both internally and externally, and it creates problems on our security landscape. So for Manchester, since 2020, we've been having some challenges, and serious crimes have increased by 27 or 11% over the corresponding period for 2021. And 27 murders have been recorded so far, and 59% of those murders has been cleared. When we look at the age group, when we look at the issues, and it is broken down, I'm going to give you the attributions in short order. But for robberies and break-ins, robberies increased by 16 or 19%, and break-ins 32 or 31%. Now what this is saying, ladies and gentlemen, some of these accusatory crimes occurred because of some simple carelessness. I know I would have heard somebody made the point earlier about the loving nature of the Manchesterian, the people of Manchester. We sometimes forget that we are living in a very serious world, and we are a little bit careless as it relates to how we treat our properties. Because what we would have found out is that some members of the communities, they will be going on vacation, and their neighbors do not know that they're going, and their homes are left unprotected. And sometimes when we find out that they are broken into, it's when it's maybe too late. Also on the robbery side, we found out that the electronics are the things that are mostly affected. You're walking on the street and you are using your cell phone that valued $140,000. Man just come behind and snatch your phones from you. And we ended up with more robberies. If we were protecting our properties a little bit more, many of the losses would have been saved. As also to let us know, one of the other things as it relates to robberies, I'm not sure, ladies and gentlemen, if we understand the security landscape in which we are operating, because the criminals do post people at different points to ensure that they have spotters in the banks, they have spotters at the business places, and when you do business, they know that you are traveling with large sums of money, and they will use the opportunity to rob you. So we need to be a little bit more private. Some of us, we discuss our financial status with everybody. They know what's happening. You're going to be purchasing material for your homes, or you're going to be purchasing new furniture, or you're going to be doing a withdrawal from any financial institution, and you made it known. You are inviting criminals to take disadvantage of the situation. So I want to just expose you to the attribution and weapons that are used in the commission of crimes in the Manchester space. So of murders, we have criminals for 15%. Not yet determined, 18%, and interpersonal, it is 63%. What this is saying is that people are not able to settle their differences in an amicable way. And us as law enforcement officers, the Community Safety and Security branch, we always have an outstretched hand, reaching out for members. If you have challenges with settling your dispute and having a good conversation, we invite you to come to us, because we do have the skills and competencies to treat with these issues. So it's 63%. Just imagine if you're able to reduce that 63% to 3%, we would have at least 8 or 9 less murders just by people settling their disputes in an amicable way. The guns account for 85% of all murders. It means that in Manchester we're seeing more the use of guns, or a proliferation of the use of guns in also settling these disputes. So I want, ladies and gentlemen, for you to understand that our security landscape is going to be treated with when we do understand that law enforcement is a business, and we all are in this business together. There's not a safe cabin and a sinking ship. We must understand the world in which we operate. Now, I know that for the young minds, we have to spend time to develop the young minds in the right and proper way. Us at law enforcement levels, we get sometimes that product or the person who started behaving as recalcitrant at the back end. But what happened between ages 1 and 6? We know that 90% of the brains develop between ages 1 and 6. And once that happened, the only thing that happens from there is experience. And so the seed would have been planted already. It therefore means that at certain stage, certain fundamental things need to take place in terms of sowing seeds for growth to take place. And from age 6 to 12, we need to go through that observation process. Now, that observation process will tell you whether this child is going right or left. The transformation of the mind is critical to law enforcement. And once we ensure that the mind of the child is channeled in the right and proper direction, we will have less problems. I suggest, as I was speaking to some of the panelists earlier, that there are certain fundamental things that ought to be done, that civics ought to be taught, the Constitution ought to be taught. And so when people know laws, what happened? They're able to apply themselves better as decent, normal citizens within their communities and their countries. So as personal security, it starts with you, start with me. Community security, it's all of us together, and we must understand that law enforcement and our safety and security is a business, and the safer we keep this country is the more investors we will have to invest for the economy to grow and for people to be employed. And we have to see the nexus between crimes, criminality, and the growth and development of our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ACP Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, just want to remind you that I'm asking you to just listen carefully, because you will be given an opportunity to ask questions based on what you would have heard. At this time, I'm gonna, we want to give you a little flavor to this event. And so we have a cultural item coming up. I'm gonna ask Cynthia Clark to come up at the front and to do your thing. Cynthia, let us give her a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. Children,
Good job, Cathintia. Very good job. And you know, while she was up there performing, what came to my mind is the times when every child was a child of everyone in the community. Those days, I long for those days. But I tell you, I don't care whose child I see. If they're doing something wrong, I'm going to grab them. Tell the mom to come to me or the dad. Honestly, we have to take a stand, because if we do not stem it at that stage, it will get out of hand. All right? So thank you again, Cynthia. And we're moving nicely along. We don't really want to break the momentum, but at this time I'm going to ask the Guardsman personnel to just give a 2-minute presentation as to the products and services that you have over there, so maybe you can interest the audience some more. So I'll give you 2 minutes to just, give us a little thing of what you have going on over there. Can we use another mic?
Good evening. Oh, great. I'm Ian Gray, Sales Coordinator for Guardsman Group, as well as iProtect Solutions. iProtect Solutions, we are one of the new babies under the Guardsman Group. We are a wireless automated solution provider, which we would like Mandeville to take part, to be a part of. We offer wireless technology where you can actually monitor your home, your business remotely. I say everyone here actually has a phone in their hand. So imagine having the power to control your home remotely by your phone, to know exactly what's happening at your home in real time. This is the solution for you. We, as I mentioned, are a wireless provider, so we're not going to run wires into your home. We just really need to know how many windows, how many doors that you have in your home, and from there, we can create a security platform for you to be safe. We also offer automated features. Picture you driving home one evening, 8 o'clock in the night where it's very dark, and you have the power at your fingertips to turn on your home lights remotely. Pop up your cameras to see if there's anyone probably hiding around the back to pounce upon you to rob you. You have that power now with iProtect Solutions. There are pamphlets here that will go in details, further details of the automated features like the smart locks, inverters for the air conditioner where you can turn on the air conditioner remotely as well, how you can conserve on electricity. This is not only a security platform, but it's also a change in lifestyle. So please feel free at probably any time if you have a break or after the end of the program for a consultation to see how this iProtect solution can fit you and offer you a better platform for solution for security.
All right, thank you. One question from me. So
Sure.
where can you be found in Mandeville?
Great. My salesperson beside me, Dana, she's actually the representative for Mandeville. Her base is at where? Guardsman Alarms? Your base. It's in Guardsman Alarms, in Mandeville as well. Manchester Road. Great. So Dana, she will be handling the iProtect leg here. I will also be assisting if anyone should want to call or need further consultation or a site assessment. We offer that free of cost. So we're making security affordable for everyone. So gone are the days where you think that security may run you $100,000. Right now you can have security starting from $5,000. You can know what is happening at your home for at least $5,000 each month. So that's what we're trying to push to see if we can cut or curb crime. So picture everyone having a security system, creating a own community watch type of program to see how effective that will work to cut crime. It will, Right now we have started, as I said, it's a new company, but we have been progressing. We have been getting a lot of clients, and we're really pushing security protocol in every parish. You see, Mandeville is the best, so I'm here to see how best we can initiate to get this started in Mandeville as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're most
And
welcome.
I do know that your security system works with internet and data. Hint, hint. All right. Okay, internet and data, a provider that provides that for you. Hint, hint. All right, and while we're on security and safety, safety is not only about crime. We are in this building here, we are all enclosed. And so I just want to remind you, in the event you hear an alarm, it's not a drill. There are 2 exits. So you have an exit through the right door to my right, and you have to the left. So just make sure whenever you go into any building, you should observe the exits, just in case something happens. So that's a part of safety. All right? All right, thank you. Moving nicely along. I hope our attendees online are hearing us clearly. I'm going to ask that if they have any question, they can post it, and we'll get it to our panelists when the time comes. So we're going to move straight now into more presentations, and I'm going to invite Dr. Jason Mackay to do his presentation, followed by Mr. Christopher Sr., and of course, Lieutenant Commander retired George Overton. Before Dr. Mackay begins, let me just use this opportunity to thank Guardsman again for sponsoring this event. We really appreciate your help, and News Auditorium for facilitating us this evening. So, Dr. Mackay, I think you have a few, yes, over to you.
Thank you so much. Well, I promised my fellow panelists that I'll keep this short. I don't know if I've developed a reputation for going too long, but I'm going to really keep it tight. So I'd like to start by thanking Custis Green for inviting me and for organizing a really well put together program. I want you to realize also that the JCF is taking this very seriously. You notice they sent the Assistant Commissioner in charge of Area 3, Superintendent McCullough on only his 2nd day in charge of the division, and the crime chief here. So with this degree of support that the program has, I think that you're on your way to a solution in your parish to which is still, as far as crime goes, one of the better parishes in the country. So, I mean, I serve in St. Catherine, and I envy your crime statistics in Manchester. So, you're not where we are yet, and you don't want to get there. Right. And you're largely not there because there are persons who are nipping it in the bud, strategizing. The JCF has invested some really good people down here, and as well as persons in the parish like your Custos and so on, are doing steps and moves to try and mitigate the random violence and the domestic issues and other value-added systems in the parish. That being said, being a Jamaican, I think we've developed a culture of watching the murder statistic. And we use that to look on to grade what is happening in parishes across the country. Police divisions is normally quoted at. For the purpose of this presentation I'm going to make, I want you to move away from looking at the murder statistic and start to look on how important the robbery statistic is. Why is it important? It's not because of the significant impact of a robbery. It's just that a robbery can oftentimes be a conduit to a murder. And you have to look on your own profile and how you live. A victim of murder, in most cases, is involved in gang activities. And this is just a reality if you look on our national statistic. It may get a bit higher if you look on extremely high gang zones like Montego Bay, St. Catherine, and Kingston. But largely the victim of murders are part to, when I did my actual thesis on for my doctorate, it had that 78% for Southern St. Catherine over a 3-year period. The victimology report had 78% were actually gang members themselves. So the average guy who gets killed, who's not a gang member and not involved in criminal activity, he's likely to be a victim of murder or a domestic issue. So the domestic issues, over the last 2 decades, the police force has put a lot of effort in trying to put together programs so persons can better handle their conflicts. Robberies, though, I think people tend to mull over robberies and break-ins, which is, so, as I said, for the purpose of this presentation, we're going to focus on robbery as perhaps being one of the most likely ways the normal guy and girl can end up getting themselves killed. And with that in mind, you also have to look on another great crime, rape. Breaking and rapes tend to fit hand in hand as well. So you may traverse your town square every day, but nobody's going to rape you there. But if somebody breaks into your home, that's likely where you graduate to rape also. So these crimes often looked on as less important, like robbery and breaking, are usually the conduit to greater crimes, like murder and rape. So on that note, we want to look on why are you going to be robbed in your community? What is the possibility of being robbed in your community? And more importantly, what do you do when you're being robbed? First thing I always tell persons when they're being robbed is don't resist. There's no property you have that is worth dying for. And very recently, someone was killed in a robbery that was very well publicized. While they were resisting, there was another person killed in a robbery while he was trying to acquire the property stolen from somebody else. The reality is it's just an asset. If you're going to be robbed, I'd like you to just we get nothing else from this presentation, get this. Don't resist. Don't fight back. Give them what you have. It is the most likely way you're going to get hurt. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. If this thing is going to graduate to an abduction or a rape, I advise fight like hell. But there is a fight, and then there is a resist strategy. You have to kind of know the balance between the two. Now, as you may have heard in the presentation, I'm a martial artist and have been for most of my life. One of the things we learn is that there are tactics that you can utilize that you can be resisting without it appearing that you're fighting back. So sometimes, as I said, you wouldn't want to resist the robbery, but the robbery is about to graduate to them taking you away, which is normally to a secondary crime scene where they will have more control and you will have less. At this point, if you do something like drop on the ground, still begging, still pleading, you slow them down because your legs are no longer a participant in the movement of your weight into the nearby vehicle. Sometimes screaming and begging attracts as much attention as screaming for help. Now, screaming for help may be viewed by the person who's attacking you psychologically as resistance. Begging for help doesn't quite have the same effect. So it's a strategy you could look to employ if you see where it's graduating to a secondary crime scene. So you're in the robbery. Now let's look at it. Why is it the robberies occur and where do they occur? Most of the time you're going to be robbed. Traditionally, it's lonely places or dark places. I think with a little care, we could avoid most of these things happening if we know it's going to happen. If there are occasions where you simply cannot do any better. You have to walk up a lonely road. But if you can avoid it, avoid it. If you can, or you can be conscious of it. If you're walking up the lonely road and it's in the daylight, one of the things you don't want to do is to show wealth. So you don't want to show, as Assistant Commissioner Smith spoke of, that $140,000 smartphone. You want nothing that attracts you more than anybody else. And these smartphones have created a significant problem because people didn't normally walk around with things of this value. Even jewelry. Sensible people removed their jewelry when they got in certain settings back in the 80s when the snatch and grab was popular. But now everybody has a smartphone, and no smartphone seems to be valued under 100,000. And people are walking around with it, demonstrating it, using it. Apart from making them very oblivious to the surroundings, it is also contributing to attracting the persons who move against you. There are other times when you're likely to get robberies. If you're somebody who handles cash and it is known. That's why a lot of operators are targeted like they are, because they're one of the few businesses that don't really take cards. So you find that if you're known to handle large quantities of cash, you can look for a robbery. The ways around that, I don't know if any member of the business community who handles cash is there. They're drop safes you can install in your business place so that they know if they come there, they're not getting much. I know at least one security company that clears drop safes, and they do a pretty good job of it. Although businesses are less of a target now because of the use of cards and cash, the use of cash is still prevalent, especially in wholesales, especially in lotto companies, especially in meat shops. I think the introduction into your business place of a drop safe is something that would lessen the possibility of you being robbed, and then by extension lessen the possibility of the robbery graduating to a greater crime like murder. And it is very likely to happen in a robbery scenario. It is so cheap for couriers to move money now that we as security operators find it very difficult to compete in that market, because it is so down to a science by the larger courier operators that treat it like a bus route, just moving from one to the other, that it is totally and completely foolhardy that persons should be trying to move their own money to the bank, because it's no longer a very expensive activity. So the same way I would advise that persons who are moving on the streets on foot would make all efforts to hide their wealth. I would argue that anybody who's operating a business would introduce one of the drop safes in there. You don't have the key, it's the operator who moves the money for you. It's the operator who opens the vault. Usually, we were able to predict when robberies would start to occur in communities, because they were usually committed by persons who were auxiliary to the community. They were not living in the community, they would come from other communities and rob. This has changed in everywhere, to include Manchester, because now, because of scamming, you have guys who can afford to rent houses in your community. Now, the scammers may not go there and break into person's house, but they attract persons into the community which would normally not be around particular rural communities, places that don't normally harbor criminals. They bring them in there in large numbers because of their association, and then you start to see an increase in crime. A lot of times the police force is not going to know that persons who appear to be scammers are actually operating in your community. And there is this misnomer popularized by persons in the music industry that it is a victimless crime and it is a crime glorified in music and by artists and so on. It very much isn't. Let's just put that to sleep right now. The money you see them spending, and if you're benefiting from it in one way or other, you're benefiting from person's misery. But for the regular guy on the street, this person is also creating a risk to you also, apart from the fact that they're purchasing guns and giving it out to persons in their gang and hiring other gangs to protect them. They're drawing people to them. And the type of persons they're attracting are the type of persons which are going to commit crimes in your community. So if you see them popping up in your community, could be one of the ways that you actually start to bring less risk to yourself, is to inform law enforcement that you suspect they are there. I think that the average person doesn't realize the contribution to this particular group, to the difficulty that the force is having to control crime in Jamaica, and the difficulty that the social impact that it is having on persons who are trying to employ people. Because you have this group spending large groups of money, throwing it around. Nobody really needs to work until that runs out or that implodes, or the negative factors start to impact the persons around and the community around. You can make reports to law enforcement now without anybody knowing. So people saying that they are worried about their safety and so on is really nothing but an excuse. There are so many avenues that you can report crime to the police that does not even involve the police. You go through Crime Stop as one, or a plethora of other persons that put out hotspot numbers that you can just call. Nowadays, nobody knows what number you're calling from. You can private your number and report it. But this is where the fight against crime that leads to a conduit to greater crime begins, with persons reporting it. All right. As I said, I promised I would be under 10 minutes, so I'm just going to close with the ability to protect yourself. This is something that has been a bone of contention, especially recently after the battle of the Montego Bay Sam Sharp Square, and how this factors into your own personal security and robbery prevention and so on. A lot of persons here need to do more in respect of training, learning to be able to defend yourself, learning the right thing to do, learning how to fight. And believe it or not, this particular parish has at least 3 of the best schools in the country that teach martial arts. The most senior female martial artist in the country teaches martial arts right in this town, Jolene Masters. The best karate instructor I have ever known is George McFarlane, and he lives in this town. He's also the best fighter that Jamaica has ever produced. You know, so I can tell you, it hits hard. You have the ability to train yourself to defend yourself here. You don't have to limit it to firearms. And as you can see, a firearm is not always the most useful tool to it. But if you're going to start the fight against crime, the fight begins with your personal security. The fight begins with your embracing of law enforcement as a partner in it. And the fight begins with a proper analysis of your own personal risk. So that's why I close out, and I hope in some way I contributed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mackay, and we'll just go straight to Mr. Christopher Senior.
Thank you very much. Custis Green, my fellow practitioners, let me thank you for the opportunity to be able to participate in this very important evening, especially before our 60th celebration as a nation. I'm going to take a minute and a half to boast. Mandeville is the place to live, to work, and to raise families. Why am I saying this? I was not born here, but every holiday I was shipped here by my parents to stay and spend time with my grandparents or my grandmother. I believe that one of the ways that we have lost out in this nation is that there is no more country to ship our children to. Because when we were given problems in town and you were shipped to country, grandma, auntie, uncle would run you through, and elders would run you through either the coconut grove, the mango tree, you go a river to go catch, whatever. And there was a looking forward of getting together with your cousins and some friends that occupied you, and the children never have to do this. Our kids have been doing too much FaceTime with this. This has invaded our space and taken over our capacity of our children and young people to think. If you see young persons especially walking on the road, they are looking on this and they're walking into danger. So let me speak to us as older folks and mature persons here this afternoon. When you are using this phone, don't let it control you. This can be one of the greatest detector or greatest distractor of your personal security. You must be aware of your environment, where and how to use this, as an advantage and not as a disadvantage. I've seen persons coming into the banks, cashing their checks, drawing money from their accounts, thousands of dollars, barely catching in their pocket, and sometimes, especially in the town of Mandeville, older folks walking out the door, and then later you hear of an incident in the car park or further along. As was said before, let me endorse, there are other ways that you can manage this process for your own personal security. Be as unattractive as possible. Be blended in to the general environment as possible so you don't become a target. That has been spoken to about already, so let me move on to something a little bit more central to Mandeville. Neighborhood watch. Neighborhood watch. Who is my neighbor? My first neighbor is the person who lives beside me, behind me, and in front of me. If I don't know the person's telephone number, or they don't know me, if there is danger, I cannot be warned by my neighbor, and I cannot warn my neighbor of the danger. We have taken on a very impersonal way of living, which we need to get rid of. We cannot be living in a community and don't know each other. Can you imagine your neighbor is broken down on the street? Car is broken down in a very dark area, and you drive past them and don't even recognize them. That is happening currently in our Jamaica, and it is happening right here in Mandeville. So I want to speak briefly about Neighborhood Watch. Somebody, I was listening to Nationwide, no, it was Mellow recently, and they were commenting on the unfortunate accident that took place in St. Anne on Sunday. I have been told by persons taking the buses that it don't make sense to talk to the driver because the drivers them turn shutter. One of the commentators was saying that no matter what is happening, if he is in a bus and see the driver driving carelessly, he's going to make up plenty noise and tell him, say, if he can't stop the bad driving, then he must stop the bus and let me off. Can I stand? We cannot accept things as being normal anymore. Our environment, our Mandeville, our Manchester is in a very precarious place. Our nation is in a very precarious place. And there are some of us who will have to take the chance to stand for what is right. Are you hearing me? If we don't do that, we're going to be overrun by the minority. Crime is high, yes, but they are in the minority. When we, the majority, stand up and decide to huddle together, and in our neighborhoods, that decide that we're going to make sure we know each other to the point that when Miss Mary, who lives alone, is in need of a pot of soup, we go and minister to Miss Mary and bring that pot of soup. Yeah? Because that is where our culture as Jamaicans have come from, where we care for each other. How do you build a neighborhood watch? That's the first step, getting to know your neighbors. Let me give you a little example. I now live in Mandeville. I lived in Mandeville years before, and I'm now living in Mandeville. We moved into a certain area. And when we moved there, my wife and myself decided that we're going to walk around and introduce ourselves to the neighbors. That we did. And we're trying to get us motivated to do something about the neighborhood. There are areas that are dark, and so persons who don't drive have a challenge. So we try to look out for those persons and assist. We moved around and went to different homes. We did not get everybody. But come Labor Day last, May 23rd, was it? Right. What we did is that there was a sign at the front of the neighborhood. We got 3 other neighbors, and we said we're going to bush out that area, clean it up, paint it up, and in doing that on Labor Day, persons were passing, and we got the names and telephones of other persons, and we tell them what we were planning and what we're going to do. And so after a while, the buzz began to happen in the neighborhood because the sign that was erected that was run down and broken down for some number of years was now painted and looking nice. So the next move is to call the neighbors together and together let us decide what sign we're going to put on this monument. What does that do? It allows for us to get to know each other, exchange telephone numbers, and begin to use a pattern of how we would alert each other when something has gone wrong. Why is this important? Many years ago, when I was a traveling salesman, thieves attempted to break into my house. When my wife, who was there, heard the sound downstairs, she made one call to one of the neighbors. Within 5 minutes, that neighbor, along with 2 other neighbors, were at the house. Within 7 minutes, the police was there. What happened? The thieves were not able to get in. So all I want to say in my 5 minutes is this. There are more of us who have the capacity to change our nation, neighborhood by neighborhood. The police has been begging us to establish and keep alive neighborhood watches. There might be about 45 or so persons here. If we're representing 30 communities inside of this town hall, this afternoon, this evening, and each of us go back to our communities and begin to spread this good news and begin to build into each other that we are going to stand up together and begin to do something about all that is happening around us and not accept that we have been overrun. Because sometimes, if you hear the statistics, you say, Lord of mercy, we can't do nothing. You give up. And you say, we're dead now. But it is not so. There are more of us who are good citizens. We can take back our nation, but we have to decide to leave here this evening with all the information being garnered and go home and say to ourselves, what can I do? What should I do? And make up in our mind that by this weekend, we're going to call 2 other persons. All it takes, is just a little spark to get this fire going. And when this fire begins to blaze, no criminal, no organization in Jamaica, no matter where they are, where they're coming from, no matter what kind of monies they have, can overcome a nation that decides that together we're going to be unified and use our abilities and resources and our eyes and our ears and make changes in our community. What was being shared by Guardsman, I protect, I endorse. My son decided that he was going to use his own skills and technologies, and right now I can tell you what is happening at my home. Because of this smart information, we are able to save over 30% from my light bill. Yeah? So not only can I see what is happening at home now, not only can I know which door is open and close it remotely, but all of this information can be used within a neighborhood to protect ourselves. So let me pause and just stop right there. Thank you very much.
Well said, Mr. Smith. And I do agree that neighborhood watches, homeowners associations, those bodies work. I can attest to that. All right, so we're going to hand over now to our esteemed panelists again, and that is Lieutenant Commander, or Lieutenant, am I correct? Lieutenant Commander, retired George Overton. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Master of Ceremonies. Custos Rotularium of Manchester, the Honorable Garfield Green, Mr. Moderator, fellow panelists, distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the audience, good evening. You know, a few weeks ago, Custos Green saw me at a function here in Mandeville. And he said, you know, I'm doing some activities leading into independence, and I need your assistance on it. My first interaction with Custos Green was before he was Custos. It was some years ago when he was president of the Chamber of Commerce of Manchester. And he put on a similar symposium at the Gulfview Hotel. You know, Costas, I think you did such a good job there that for good work you've now got more work. Because now you're Costas and putting on more symposiums. But it does tell you that Costas Green has had the security of his parish at heart for many, many years. And I congratulate him today on bringing this together to educate and inform the people of Manchester, the beautiful parish of Manchester. You know, I came into the room this afternoon. They hadn't yet turned on the air conditioners, and when they did, I said, no, man, you don't need that. Open the window, it's cooler outside than the air conditioner is going to make it. Really, really nice. But this evening, I want to share with you all some simple thoughts on how we can improve our personal safety and security, and how do we improve our communities from a safety and a security perspective. Following the team that has gone before, Taylor and Charlie has a difficult job because they've hit on almost every one of the points that are important. But I can only endorse it and add to the importance of bringing it all together. You know, we have to start from basics. We as individuals need to have a heightened awareness of our personal security and the surroundings in which we live and operate. If we don't start by training ourselves to have that awareness, to recognize immediately when things are not what they normally are, when circumstances are not what we are accustomed to, and therefore we have the ability to react and respond and to be proactive to whatever is going on around us. If we don't do that, then we start with a handicap. So we need to firstly start by training ourselves to be aware, to be conscious, and as Chris said earlier on, not have our heads buried in the phone and chatting and being oblivious to everything that is going on around us. We need to ensure that we maintain that awareness. The other thing that we need to do is ensure that the environments that we go into, where we should be able to let down our guards and relax, be comfortable, rejuvenate ourselves, refresh ourselves to get on with life, we need to ensure that those spaces are safe and secure. You know, they say that a man's home is his castle, and his castle is where he resets himself. But if when you get home, you don't feel safe and you don't feel secure, then there can be no resetting, there can be no rejuvenation. When you get to your office where you need to apply your mind to the business that you are doing and your efforts to the business, if you don't feel safe and secure there, then you are not giving your efforts to the business 100%. So we need to ensure that we take control of our spaces of work and relaxation. I won't go into it. The guys spoke about the importance of being able to protect your home, making it safe, the various ways and means of doing it and doing it efficiently. Jason touched on how you make your workspace a little safer. You know, the reality of life is that the criminals have all day to plan what they are going to do. And believe me, they have all day to sit and watch you. You don't have all day to sit and watch them. None of us are in business for charity. So we are exchanging money for goods and services. How you handle that money, how you manage that money is going to make you either attractive or less attractive. Criminals are cowards in a sense, you know, because they're going to go for the softest target. So if John Brown's shop down the road is a hard target, but Mary Jane's 2 shop up the road is a soft target. They're going to leave John Brown and go to Mary Jane. So we all need to ensure that we control the environments and we make the environments in which we live very important element. We as individuals can do all we need to secure ourselves, but it is the building block of people in the community and the workspace that is going to make it safer. So if you don't know your neighbors, and if your community is not a united one, then divided you shall fall. So it is very important that whilst we make our individual space safe and secure, we foster that community spirit. That community spirit that Jamaica is known for. We foster it and we build on it. We get everybody to do the same things that are best practice within the community. We need to know who are the workers, who are the laborers, who are the people that are coming into our communities. Where we see a stranger, you need to communicate with the people around you. You know them, you know him, none of us know him. Let's call the police. We need to know who this man is. If we don't have that spirit in our communities, then we are setting ourselves up for problems. You know, there's a recent incident that happened in Maypen. And Jason touched on it when he spoke about the scammers coming in and buying places and attracting a particular type of person. One of the things that nobody has said about that Cocoa Piece murder, the mother and her 4 children, is the fact that that mother knew that the gentleman who is accused of the murder, she knew what he was involved in. She gave him safe haven in her community. Nobody has recognized that that community was endangered by harboring somebody who was wanted by the underworld in another community. And we all need to understand this here, that we need to look out for our communities. We need to question the strangers and the new faces in our communities because we don't know who others may be bringing into that community. We endanger ourselves. And when people flee from other communities and come here, they need to find a way to survive. And surviving is robbery, housebreaking, and all the other things that go with it. So our awareness, being a united community, being a united city, is important. You know, there's an old saying, and this is where I believe as a nation we are falling down. It takes a village to raise a child. And we have far too many wayward children in our communities, our townships, and our cities. But that is because we have dropped the collective responsibility of ensuring that we keep our youngsters in check and we keep them towing the line. Far too often, enough of it picking them in a business with it. We can't continue like that. Those children who go astray, they are from here. They are from our communities. They are our neighbors. If we don't keep them online, they will be the future criminals and problems of our communities. So we all need to play our role in looking after our own selves, uniting our neighbors and our friends and associates into a block of people, a community of people, cohesive, cooperating, and communicating. Very, very important for us to do it. We heard the word about forming neighborhood watches. I believe that yes, we need to form neighborhood watches. The Jamaica Constabulary Force has a division that is set up specially to help communities establish neighborhood watches. But I believe that as neighborhoods and as communities, we have a collective responsibility to look after our own security. You know, Jamaica Eye is a program that I endorsed from day one, despite the fact that it had a false start. I endorsed it from day one because I see the sense in it. Jamaica Eye is improving our ability to monitor and respond and investigate occurrences. We don't need to wait on Jamaica Eye to establish our own community camera system. The technologies are there, they're affordable, they are flexible, they are modular, so you can build out as you can afford it. We need to get those things within our communities. Not only will it protect us, it will help us to deter the criminal element from our community because we become a harder community. So ladies and gentlemen, my message this evening is to follow the common sense practices that have been recommended by my colleagues who spoke before, but do it in a very united and coordinated way, and that will make our environment a safer one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Commander. Thank you so much. We will be moving into our panel discussion. I know we've been sitting for a little while. So if you would like to take a 5-minute break, probably a bathroom break, which is right behind the podium here. Just 5 minutes, and then we're going to sit down and get into the meat of the matter with the panel discussion, and we invite you to, participate, ask your questions, give your recommendations. We're talking about solutions here. We are all a part. We're all in this thing together, so please let your voices be heard. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back at 7:15. We aim to be out of here by 8 o'clock. We have supper prepared for all of you, so don't worry about that part. So 5 minutes, and we'll be right back. think we put. You have some more energy to go a little later than 8 o'clock, right? All right. All right, so we're going to move straight into the panel discussion. And our moderator, Mr. Markel Virgo, of course, will be leading this aspect of the discussion. And again, we invite our audience online and in the hall here to participate. We have been telling you, no, we need to hear from you, okay? So please, if you need paper, raise your hand, I'll give you paper to write your questions. And then, of course, at that appropriate time, you use the microphone that has been placed in the center. We ask that you introduce yourselves. Yeah, let us know who you are, where you're from, your entity if possible, and of course, move into your questions. So at this time, I hand over to our moderator.
Thank you very much, Ms. Morgan. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Manchesterians, fellow Jamaicans, we have been fed both with the mind and in our bellies, and it is now time for the panel discussion. Now, while our panelists were giving their various presentations, I could not help but find myself writing quite a bit, to be quite honest with you. There were so many things, so many salient and valid points that were made by our panelists this evening, and I wrote some questions that I think I have enough to pose at least one question to each of our panelists. And I think one or two of these questions even has relevance for the custos as well. So be ready, sir. So for ACP Smith, with regard to your statistics that you presented earlier, could you just remind me of the age group breakdown for those who you have in custody? Do you have that information?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to supply you with the information for the age group, but I'd say between the ages of 13 to 29 is the cohort that normally we interact with in our custody most of the times.
Thank you. I was interested also to hear if you have this in your statistics, and perhaps Superintendent McCullough could assist in this regard. Where break-ins and robberies are concerned, which police areas within the division have the greater or the greatest areas of robberies and break-ins? Is it focused more in the Mandeville police region, or is it more, or is it a little more widespread to Christiana, Newport, Malgully, those places?
It is mostly in the Mandeville area. What we would have done is to do our analysis, and we looked at the towns within the police division. And what we found is that the town centers across the division, they account for most of our robberies. And in the communities, we have the break-ins, but Mandeville accounts for most of our robberies within the Manchester space.
Thank you, sir. I have another question, and I suppose I can put this. Oh. Right, so I'll put this question to all of our panelists. As a matter of fact, I had it written down from the first presentation, and I think that Lieutenant Commander Overton touched on it in his presentation, Jamaica Eye. And I would want to go as far as to endorse what Lieutenant Commander Overton has said in giving his own endorsement of the Jamaica Eye initiative. But I wanted to find out, and I'm not sure if Custos Green or ACP Smith or Superintendent McCullough or any member of your team can answer this, but what is the present rate of penetration or take-up of Jamaica Eye in Manchester? Could you provide us with a perspective? Has it rolled out in Manchester, first and foremost?
I think I can jump in here. And I'm going to put on my PSOJ hat, as the Jamaica Eye development is one of the things that the PSOJ is monitoring in an agreement with the Ministry of National Security. Yes, there are cameras deployed in the Mandeville area and in the Santa Cruz area. Mm-hmm. The cameras that are connected to the Jamaica Eye system at this point in time are predominantly government-owned cameras. They are at ministries, departments, and agencies. And those cameras that exist at those spaces, as well as the traffic management cameras, are all feeding into the Jamaica Eye network at this time. They are not yet building out in the public-private partnership for citizens to contribute cameras to the Jamaica Eye program in the Manchester region.
Okay, and would you be able, Lieutenant Commander, to give any kind of timeline as to when it may be implemented in this parish?
For the public-private partnership in this parish, I know it is not for this calendar year, as the Jamaica Eye team is tasked to build out a particular number in the Kingston metropolitan area for the rest of this year. And to just take it, it caused me to make the statement in my presentation that I encourage communities create their own camera network so that if and when they become ready to take them on, that would be in place to be added to the Jamaica network.
I see. Very well. Very well. Thank you very much. The next question that I have, and this especially arises from Mr. Senior's presentation, a very spirited presentation, might I add, about who is. And you know, I you know, as a churchman myself, I could hear a bit of the elder and the preacher bit jumping out, and I can quite see the perspective, a very good perspective. My question, and I think that it can be put to the Custos as well, and also to the Justices of the Peace Association, and perhaps the police, is what is the present status of the Manchester Neighbourhood Watch Council? I know that in former years it had been active and they used to have meetings at various places within Mandeville. I'm not sure how well subscribed the council was in those days, but there was a council that I know was meeting regularly. Has this Neighbourhood Watch Council faded away? And what initiatives perhaps can the Office of the Custos embark on to collaborate to restart that Neighbourhood Watch Council? Thank you.
That is something that we will certainly push through the Office of the Custos. But as Mr. Senior spoke earlier, I became interested and I wanted to ask a question. Because one of the things that I think caused Neighbourhood Watches to fail, because I have started a few along, and also Police Youth Club. So I was very involved in Neighbourhood Watches. But one of the things that I think has caused Neighbourhood Watches to die over time is that, or become inactive, is the system to alert each other. Right? We have come up with many things that never worked for a long time. We have tried the whistle, we have tried some alarm system. Sometimes we have had drills. They can't find the whistle, the battery in the alarm thing died, and maybe our security tables here can have something that when it is sounded in a community, we know definitely we are calling for help, other than the regular alarm sound, because even my community, you hear alarm going off, or even your vehicle, and people just sit still the same way. But if there's a special alarm sound that, let's say, let me just say, I protect our guardsman, can say we are protecting this community, protected by guardsman. If you can provide a special alarm sound that once we hear it, we know that, look, something going on. Right? But I think technology has pushed the Neighbourhood Watch to the back. I think so. Right? We have to be creative to revive it and find means and ways to get people to be actively involved.
Yes, I fully agree with you there, Costos. I know that there was one other question that I had, but I'm not seeming to find it. So maybe that's no. I think now that it's a good time to allow you, members of the audience, to ask the questions now of our esteemed panel. And if it is that I can find back the question that I appear to have lost, then, you know, I will come back. So we just ask you to use the microphone in the middle of the hall. Mr. Evan Hutchinson is assisting us is providing tech support. All right, so I see a young lady who is already at and waiting to ask her question, and then Mr. Seavright will go after her. I believe that's Mrs. Hewitt? Yes, it is.
So our moderator says a young lady. Oh, well. So anyway, I'm going to pick up from where the moderator has left off. And so it's kind of more a suggestion for neighborhood, in more bringing back pride in our community. And I spoke to the Costas only this Sunday when I saw him in church. So how about sort of launching a Keep Our Community Clean thing? It could be centered maybe somewhat around Labor Day. What does cleanliness has to do with sort of crime and keeping our community safe? Because when people, you know, take pride in their community, a pride will return. People will get to know each other. So I'm begging, I'm willing to be part of that. An incentive where we're going to launch sort of, it could be an inter-community competition, you know, so the different communities in Mandeville, they're going to bush out, because we can't always wait on government to do things. Fill the pothole, then bush out, do everything, and then we give a little trophy at the end and have a big sort of little concert at the end. And believe me, persons could go to and get involved. I don't know if that has died. So what about community youth clubs? What about sort of community resiliency programs? So teaching the youngsters how to be resilient. We need to see more programs. What about parenting program? A lot of our parents are really children having children. So we need in our community, maybe once a month, you know, we have a parenting program at some community place. I'm willing to be a part of it. I'm a retired social worker. I'm a retired teacher. I'm willing to give voluntary service. I am available. I'm sure other people are available. Let us get some community programs going in Mandeville. Parenting, resiliency program, police youth club, other programs.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hewitt. I'm not sure, well, her questions weren't specifically directed, but if any other panelists wish to provide some sort of answer, I think there has been a call somewhere that I suppose will be more directed at the officials. So the police, the custos, if there's any, well, I'm not sure if there's any local official present with us this evening, but the officials who are here, if they want to have a go at that.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say that I endorsed, I don't remember her name.
Mrs. Hewitt.
Mrs. Hewitt comments when she mentioned about the neighborhood watch, that council. You could have, I suggest, or I propose, I endorse the trophy for best communities. And it could be a yearly project that you have community competitions. And I do not know the logistics at this time to be worked out, but you could have communities competing for in the different areas, and it's a trophy given to the best community at the end of that period. And I think that will really, really build that community camaraderie, and sooner or later it makes your community a little bit safer. For the Police Youth Club, we have been launching clubs in recent times, because as you are aware, the COVID would have set us back 2 years. And as a result of that, since we had the opportunity to meet on the face-to-face modality, we started launching police youth clubs. I can say to this audience that Christian and Police Youth Club is one of the most active right now in Jamaica, and they have a lot of projects going on currently, and the divisional commanders, Commander Outgoing, Mr. Darby, and we launched one in St. Elizabeth about 6 or 7 weeks ago. So we are getting back together, putting back the police youth clubs together. And so that is definitely on board with us, and you will be seeing much, much more from them. But we are currently on the way.
Thank you very much. If there's no other comment from the panel, I see Mr. Seabright. Oh, Dr. Mackay. Please go ahead.
Yes, moderator. Yeah, there was some question as it related to the cost of training persons in self-defense.
Yes.
It's $5,000 a month.
For which institution?
For the Taekwondo.
Taekwondo.
Okay. And I think it's very similar with the karate school here. It is an extremely small cost as it relates to learning how to defend yourself. I mean, bear in mind you're There's a place provided for you to come, and there's expert tuition there and so on. You know? So it's a negligible cost.
Yes, and I can attest to it as a retired green stripe. Yes, as a retired green stripe.
Time to return.
Well, who to tell? All right, so we have now Mr. Seaveright at the microphone. Please go ahead with your question.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone. I am Renok Seaveright, and I'm actually representing President Lincoln Edwards, who is the president of Northern Caribbean University, and he's unavoidably absent this evening. Well, I'm in charge of security and safety at Northern Caribbean University. And you'll understand that our chief client is our students, right? And their safety and security has to be high on the agenda. Now, I have two questions.
Yes.
The first one has to do with the fear of crime. It is said that the fear of crime can be worse than crime itself. And the fact is that many of us may never experience crime personally, meaning that we might never be robbed or anything like that. But we would have heard enough out there, and we do fear. Our students, many of them live off campus. And even as I speak, there are many who are not comfortable in walking to or from school. You'll find that after, say, 5, 6 o'clock, they don't want to walk. That's in the evening. And in the mornings, maybe not before 7 o'clock, some of them would like to walk because of what is happening around them. How may we assure our students that they are safe when they have this high perception that they may be victimized at any time? That's one of the questions. The other question is, well, let me kind of preface it this way. At the main gate of the main campus, it is a signalized intersection. The traffic lights work. They're working properly. The problem is many of the people using Manchester Road do not respect those lights. So if you're leaving campus and you have the green, they have the red, you better stop because they are just going through. Now, I have seen accidents out there because of that kind of indiscipline. And as a university family, we do not want it to be that we have fatalities out there. Now, I do not personally believe that writing citations is the answer. I believe it will help. I believe there has to be some kind of process of education. How to go about it, I'm not really sure. So my question is more for ACP Smith. How may we educate the community to respect those lights and to respect the students and their safety? Those are my two questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seaveright. So I can just break it down into two things. Assurance, which is the duty of the police, serve, protect, and reassure. So ACP Smith, if you want to take on the assurance aspect, be more than grateful.
So the communities in which we live and function, we all know that the law is what governs people's behavior, or if you have self-discipline. And those, if you notice that there is a indisciplined type of attitude being displayed on our roads today, and it's because I think that the proper training did not take place as it relates to drivers and the drivers' training. If you notice that the Road Safety Council and the new Road Traffic Act currently is doing what we believe will characterize the type of behavior that now is on display and on the nation's streets. So what you described at the gate of NCU is just the indisciplined attitude of our drivers failing to obey the law. The lights are there and they should be used based on the dictates of law. So it's just indiscipline in the society. How do we assure that these things are the mitigation strategy that ought to be used? We need to, as citizens, to play our part by reporting some of these behaviors to the police officers. We will take the necessary action because, you know, many of us, we really take our hands off as it relates to these type of behavior. And remember that we cannot post law enforcement officers at every point. So we have to govern ourselves, and all those law-abiding citizens really have to help us police the street and Jamaica. As it relates to the fear of crime, I want to just say that if the sense of awareness of many of our citizens who traverse our public thoroughfare, and how I would have heard Dr. McCoy, remind me of your name, Jason. He's my friend for many years, and normally I call him Jason. So Dr. McCoy would have referred to making yourself less attractive. We have to understand the society in which we live. And criminals are attracted to things that can be sold, and they will take disadvantage of the vulnerables. So what am I here saying? The streets, if you look at the statistics in Mandeville town itself, you realize that because of the town management that we would have implemented over the past months, you do not have a lot of robberies within the streets of, say, Mandeville. If you look at the statistics between NCU and Mandeville town, where most of the students, they traverse, you realize that we do not have a lot of robberies and all these crimes. So the fear of crime would be maybe generally in Jamaica because of the statistics that you would have heard on over the public domain. And I can tell that the media magnify a lot of things, and it's affecting the thought process and the psyche of our Jamaican people. So to mitigate the fear of crime, we will have to put some structures in place. So the law in the streets, you do not walk if you don't have to go there. You ensure that you use technology as best as you possibly can by taking registration plates of vehicles that you, if you're not the owner of a motor vehicle. I told my daughters that they should take the registration plate and send it to my phone immediately if they're going to take a public transport. And you have to put mechanisms and structures in place for your own safety, and that will give you some comfort and peace of mind. The police, we can assure that we will serve you as best as we possibly can. We patrol the street and we talk about our systematic patrol and whatever strategy we put in place. But I want to implore the audience that once all of us participate in the security apparatus of this country, we'll have less fear of crime. All right, so I am imploring that all of us get on board and assist the process. But look at your statistics and do not follow the rumors. Some of the things that you would have seen on your social media, they are imported stuff. And it is aimed at creating this level of panic within the society. Thank you.
Thank you, ACP. I see Mr. Williams at the microphone now. Please go ahead, sir, with your question.
Hello, all. Good evening. I have two questions. One, I'd like to know how many active neighborhood watches we have now in the parish? If there's a question that can be answered, no. I'd hope that it can be researched and checked on, and at some other time it is shared. And secondly, we now have about 7 months until the highway is extended to Williamsville. And based on what has been said so far, the boundaries of the town is to be expanded or widened down to that area. I want to know from a security perspective how prepared the police is right now in terms of that influx of traffic, influx of commerce. We have 3 major multi-billion-dollar projects up in town right now. So I just want to know, how ready are you guys to deal with everybody that will come, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. ACP, I think that one goes right back in your lap.
It's not strange. This question is not strange as it relates to the number of people who will traverse the thoroughfare. I was in charge of St. Anne 2018, and you know that I don't think you have a more busier thoroughfare with a level of security risk than in St. Anne, where you have cruise ships and those vehicles that traverse the thoroughfare. So what we do is that we do our assessment and our analysis, and we put structure in place to treat with all the increased traffic that will be coming through the space. We recognize that anywhere you have development, it attracts criminals. That's why, for instance, you have squatters communities in certain areas, because once development is taking place, you find people need jobs, they come and they set up shacks, and from that they do not remove when you have squatters community exist. And so we understand the dynamics and the landscape of the expansion and what it comes with. We are aware that it is now taking 35 minutes and 20 minutes from Kingston to Clarendon. We're going to add another 20 minutes to the Williamsville leg. What that will do is to increase the travel time, decrease the travel time as it relates to how fast the good and the not so good will move on the thoroughfare. And what we're going to be doing is populating the street with more police officers, especially at the exit and the entrance. And the entrances. We have been doing that in St. Anne and in Clarendon so far. And I think if you noticed last year, we would have apprehended some criminal right in the toll booth. So we understand the landscape, and our security strategies right now is up to date with what is happening, and we might just add 1 or 2 more layers. But I can tell you that currently, and at the National Police College of Jamaica, we're now training additional police officers to be graduated sometime this year, and you will see additional police officers on the street. And so we're preparing for the expansions as we grow within the communities.
Good, thank you very much. I see the last person who I think we'll have this evening is Mrs. Alicia Green. Go ahead.
Thanks for the introduction, sir. Good evening, everyone. I have 2 points to make. The first one is the car marts in our residential communities. We have car marts popping up all over the place. There's no regulation as to where and how they are placed. And so we have commercial businesses entering into our residential areas. We can't control who come into our communities. And we hear that it is business. That's 1. 2, with the pandemic, persons losing their jobs, can't afford to pay rent, so those persons might move out. Landlords are renting their places, their apartments, to persons that are unknown to us in the community. And when you ask, they say, listen, my place is empty, I'm not making any money, and I have to rent it. How do we control these kind of a business in our communities?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Green. And again, I must really, with what Mrs. Green has asked, I really must lament the fact that it doesn't appear that any member of the municipal corporation is present. I stand to be corrected if there is one. 2, 2? Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. It is a joy to be corrected in that regard, believe me, because I think that this one would be better suited for you folks at the municipal corporation specifically. But if there's anyone who wishes to tackle Mrs. Green's questions, then please go ahead and do so. Is there anyone on the panel? Costas Green?
I can't, I'm not in a position to answer.
Right.
But what concerns me is that when things like this happen, like, you know, businesses, and not just the karmas, but people feel free and comfortable to do what they want to do without regard for law and order.
Yes.
Is something that should be of concern to every single one of us. Because if we allow these little things to happen and to continue, they are going to breed into bigger things. Bigger challenges for the police, bigger challenges for all of us. And we need to be strict. We need to enforce the law, be it the municipal corporation, be it the police, you know, whoever it is, ordinary citizens who can help. We should address these things from we see them started. Don't wait. I don't allow things to happen. And I can give an example. I remember, because when I was in the Manchester Chamber of Commerce, we used to have 1 or 2 persons selling at the roundabout at New Green. Mm-hmm. Right? I spoke to the municipal corporation. Nothing happened for a while until it turned into a plaza. You used to see little shack set up down the highway, and that's when it became a challenge for them to remove them. Why do we have to wait until things become so big before we do something? Right? I had a discussion with Superintendent Makala yesterday. Some of the things I see with our motorists, right? People have their license plates positioned anyhow on their vehicles. Can it look fashionable? We must have a major operation to fix those things, because those are people who are coming to create bigger problems for us. Blue lights are illegal on our vehicles. It don't take a blind man to go out. Even a blind can go out and count 10 vehicles with blue lights on them within 5 minutes. Because they just put these lights on the vehicle, they put fashionable things on the vehicles. It's a sign of indiscipline. And we must address them from early, because they're going to become bigger problems for us to handle, for us to correct, for us to cut off. Let us deal with them from early.
Good. I see 1 young man, 2 young men at the mic.
May I just endorse?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, ACP. Go ahead.
I would like to say to you, madam, you have restricted covenant. And it's because sometimes the community members do not understand what their rights are, and we do not want to go use the law. The law is our protector. I keep on saying that many of us do not understand how important the law is. You have restricted covenant and what members are able to do in certain communities. If you have your property, ensure that your next door neighbor, what they're doing, it's within the covenant. If not, take the matter to the court and get the citizens to come together. Remember, there is power in unity. There is power in unity. So once that is happening, consult. You can talk to a lawyer. You can look at your covenant. If you don't understand, read it. And it will inform you, and the necessary actions can be taken. You don't have to wait on the municipal council to do that for any one of us. You can activate that. The renting of premises is the same thing.
Costas?
I heard our ACP.
Mm-hmm.
I beg to disagree with you. Yes, we have the right. Yes, other things. You know, yes. He's right, you know, but I want to disagree with him. Why I want to disagree? The leaders of our communities, of our parish, of our society, if they do what they have to do, why do we have to ask John to block a car mart from being put up in a community that he doesn't want it, when the municipal corporation is supposed to do it? What happened to our leaders? We were because I was not elected. But some of us were elected, some of us are placed in position to lead, to defend our people, to serve them, and to do what is right. I can't go there and take up the role of the corporation. I can't go there and take up the role of the police. I can't go there and take on the role of a pastor if I'm not a pastor. Each of us has responsibilities. So when we're going to say the citizens, yes, the citizens can go and bring it to the authorities. And the authorities must take it up now and let's fix it. That's my response to
ACP.
Yes.
Very well, thank you, sir. I see 2 young men, and these 2 young men will be our last persons to ask questions in this aspect of the evening. So I'm going to invite Mr. CVM in his bright blue vest to go ahead and to pose his question.
All right, so my contribution is more of a suggestion.
Which is welcome. Please go ahead.
And one of the observations, and that note that we just finished on is very well set for me to say this. Based on my observation, it's a case where we as a people, it's more of it's a need where we have to have a multifaceted approach.
Yes.
And that's what I believe. So it appears as if what has been happening is that we have been attacking from one side at a time. And so by the time we attack through the method of policing, then we have a next leg that starts acting up. So we fix one and one start up. And so what I'm suggesting, what I'm putting forward,
yes,
is that multifaceted approach where we are approaching from all angles. And in a couple years ago, in my younger days, they used to have a song that used to play a certain time of the evening. Let's join hands across Jamaica for righteousness, and them kind of song there. And it used to bring such a feeling to me, personally. That feeling that I want to do great and good for my country. And I believe that it is that level we need to get back. They have this song where they say we need to get back to the basics of life. And I think we need to take that in a more literal sense. The sense that as church people, we function in our individual capacities, as what Costas just mentioned. The Costas will not be able to function as a media personnel. Yes?
Although his PR, although I must say his communication is quite all right.
But he has a team who specify.
True.
Yes? And so we are saying, in our individual capacities, whatever you do, if you're into media, music, it's very much easy if you're following the social media trends for persons to copy and paste, not just on the devices, but in action. And I believe that's the place we are to go back. It can be cool again to do good. It's not as cool anymore because nobody now going to look for you when you do the good things them. But if we get back to the place where we start to make the good popular, and make it comes naturally. It shouldn't be, sometimes we try too hard. We try too hard and we are to smart it out other than to hard it out. Right? And I'm just leaving this with you guys, with everybody, including myself, as I said before, in our individual spaces, we can impact. And it no matter if you impact 1 million or 1, there are a lot of things that and persons who would have influenced my life that today still stands. And I will be able to make a solid decision just by remembering certain principles that were taught to me.
Yes.
And perhaps those teachers did not know and maybe still do not know that they would have impacted my life. So I'm just simply saying, don't aim for the big reap all the time. The police, they are doing their job, and there are times when sometimes it don't look like you're getting the results, but do not count it too small because you don't know sometimes the result that they are pile up. So as I take my leave, just to re-emphasize, in our individual approach, in our individual capacities, that's where we need to start and function where we are placed and expand ourselves, and the results will come.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Bailey, you have the final word where questions are concerned. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening to everyone. All right. Mention was made of the fact that the police are encouraging persons to come out into to come to the stations when it is that they have their domestic conflict resolution issues. However, my question is, are there plans in place through the community safety branch unit to go out into these communities, have community sessions in collaboration with the Ministry of Justice, Restorative Justice Unit, to further educate the general public on ways to resolve the issues in a better way? The second issue, the second question to be asked is, given the fact that gender-based violence is slowly making itself a part of the wider society, how is it, has the authorities, or what plans are in place by the authorities to assist the community or the parish of Mandeville to ensure that this does not make itself a bigger issue in comparison to what is currently happening in and around the area?
Thank you very much. That seems to be both questions seem to be police related, so I will ask the officers on duty to take those questions. Oh, so if you could just turn for the camera, Superintendent McCullough, so that those online can see you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that what we have started to do, and it's being done in the corporate area. And in my former division, where I was operations officer in St. Andrew South, we have started the drive to have domestic violence and mediation centers. So those are joint partnership with USAID and the Community Security and Safety Branch, right, along with the local divisions. So I have a general understanding and practical know-how in terms of how to get the necessary mechanisms in place and necessary partnerships and so forth. So I will be bringing that type of energy, right, to the division in terms of looking at those particular things. Because if we're not able to deal with the domestic issues, those are the issues that escalate into other problems. I can tell you, well, my experience is more, well, this may be not a good thing, but it's more in the more volatile communities. That's where my policing experiences lie, right? So the demography is different from a Mandeville, of course, right? However, what we observe is that there are domestic issues that spill over into generational, what you call a generational cycle of violence that continues, even with younger generations who don't understand why Miss Jane and Mas Tom was arguing over who planted the mango tree on the border of the fence, and that so the reprisal killing start. All right? And there is something now that the JCF and the Ministry of Justice, and I'm sure Mr. Virgo will speak to this, is the concept of restorative justice is something that is now being driven. It's something that is here, and the Ministry of Justice, along with the JCF and the Ministry of National Security, it is one of our pet peeves to ensure that we can put that in place and replicate the success that has been taking place across Ireland. If you look on the Restorative Justice website, right, you'll notice that there are a number of centers, right? One was recently established in Flankers, St. James, right? So that type of concept is where we are going, because the hard policing alone won't solve most of the issues that we're having. And in policing, we have to be what I call a situational approach. So the approach in Mandeville might be different from, for example, a Kingston West, might be different from a St. James, it might be different from a St. Elizabeth and a Clarendon, where I served too, right? So it is something that we have on the top of our list, and as I said before, it's my early days yet, but I have some plans, all right? And that is one of the high priority items on my list, okay? All right.
want to also endorse what is being said, but take it a step further. In the Guinness Book of World Record, it is said that Jamaica, so it is said, have more churches per square miles than anywhere else, and it might have more bars too. Interesting. However, can we pick from the low-hanging fruit? When we have the Ministry of Justice and the police and the training there, twinning with the church, because the church as an institution, let me use it in the context, as an organization, has a reach in the community. Yes, every community, especially the inner cities across this nation, like no other. And if there's a way that we can bring in the resource of the church, those are the pastors, the counselors, to be in line with what the Ministry of Justice, which is a very important thing, then we could get a combo of a possibly 2 or 3 for 1. So in doing so, can we invite those members of the church who work closely, I know some are chaplain and so on with the police and so on, that can help to organize ourselves. Forget denomination. Denomination not important right now. It is people who is important. And so we can reach out. And then the second thing is that even in that context, when we look at it, parenting is a lost art. Seriously lost art, because you have grandmothers at 25 and 28. You understand what I'm saying to you? We have absent fathers who don't even know what it is to be a father except to plant a seed in a woman's womb. And so that part of our nation building is critical to start putting things in those areas so that people can get to understand what life is really about and how to be able to redeem the youth that we're having problems with now. So I'm just suggesting that let's look at how to get others who are already involved together, because when you're able to do that, we're able to reach farther. So that's what I would want to contribute.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give ourselves a round of applause. We have made it. We have made it, we have made it, we have made it. So let me take the time, well, and it's not the voter thanks, and I'm not trying to give the voter thanks, just to thank the panelists for the perspectives that they have offered, because I see on the program, summing up by Marika the Virgo, so I'm doing just that, Lady Sophia, I'm summing up. So in summing up, we have heard the perspectives from all of our panelists, which have been supported or which has been built on by the questions that have been raised by you, the members of the audience, in terms of doing, just as how Dr. Mackay spoke about the very basic, and also Commander Overton, as to how the basics, how the simple little wrong things turn into big things, especially if they're not cauterized. But I like how Mr. Senior's perspective came in terms of neighborliness, parenting, the good social skills that I think many of us ought to have, where even sometimes just the little things that we do makes a big difference. So little making a big difference can work for bad, and it can also work for good. Which side will you choose? And I want to believe that we are all on the side of good. I want to believe that all of us inside here and online are on the side of good. So in my summing up, we have heard the things that we need to do to protect ourselves, and we have also heard of the things that we need to do to protect each other, to keep each other safe, because no one man lives on this island. No man is an island. This is an island of almost, call it 3 million people. All 3 million of us need to look out for each other one way or another. So that is my summing up. And with that said, let me thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention and for the energy. I like it. Over to you, Lady Sophia, for a vote of thanks.
Mr. Moderator, please allow me before the vote of thanks.
You're the boss, you know. You can do whatever you want.
Really?
Yes.
I have to pay them. If I'm the boss, I should be paying everybody.
I am the boss.
You're the
tonight.
boss.
I am the boss tonight.
And when a woman says she's the boss, yield. But I listened to Mr. White from CVM, encouraging us to do our little bit in our areas of responsibility. I would really love for the media to help us to promote a lot of the good that is happening in our society. The bad things make headline news too often. And they sell quicker. And I want to cite two examples. There's a case going on now with missing person, right? And I listened to the interview on radio with the mother, and the mother was asked if she went to the police station to make a report and how she was treated. And she had good report of the police when she got there. Yes? Immediately, it was dismissed by the moderator. Immediately. And the subsequent newscast killed the police. What the police doing, what are they doing to help? Right? The police need to do more in the newscast. But yet the mother had good to say about how she was treated at the police station. There was another matter where a leader, one of our leaders said, boy, it was rumored that he was resigning from office. I think he said it. It was out in the news. A few days later at a function, that leader said, this is the reason why I said I was retiring. And immediately, media personnel rushed to the front, right? And it made news before the function was over. Right? Yes, it's true. Is that important? Seriously. Is that more important than some of the good that is happening in our society? When the good things happen, they have to wait. It has to go through a lot of processes, become news item. But let me knock the ACP, yes or no? You hear, boy, Custos knock out the ACP. That is news item immediately. Right? It's true. Right? But on a very serious note, though, it's a handful of people destroying us. Just a handful. And they seem to be more important than the rest of us. Ladies and gentlemen, let us build this nation. What's not important, let us try and ignore them. What is important, promote them. Let us avoid rumors and gossips and misinformation. We have seen how they have destroyed us as a nation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Custos. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end. I thank you so much for giving us an extra 15 minutes, and I'm going to ask you for another 10. Before I give the closing remarks, though, I'd like to use this opportunity to acknowledge Councillor Leroy Mitchell. Councillor, just... And Councillor Baker is also here. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. So we came and we listened. We heard about security systems starting at as low as $5,000. That's the iProtect. We heard about re-energizing our neighborhood watch. We heard about rebuilding community relationships. And when you talk about it means that it happened before, so you need to do it again. We need to get back to the days when we were looking out for each other. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, a clean and organized community is very intimidating to criminals. So let us go back to basics. Let us take up the garbage in front of our neighbor's gate. And once you start to do that and keep your community clean, the criminals will say, that don't look like us. Yeah? So let us go back there. Let us go back into the neighborhood living, right? And we need to start there. Our friend here of TVM talk about attacking from different ends. We need to look at strategies that we can implement with a sandwich effect. So while we're trying to address something here, we're trying to prevent it here and we work inwards. So we need to probably get back, Custos, to having some focus groups or something where we can really sit down and discuss some solutions. Because here what happened. We've been talking. Words may inspire, but action creates change. And we all need to make a change. We have the opportunity and we should grab it and do what we have to do. All right? So let us go back out there. Let us reignite Manchester. That's what we said. We want to reignite Manchester. So let us go out there and be infectious with our creating and implementation of solution to resuscitate our parish, Manchester. I'll be inviting Miss Diana Siblez for the vote of thanks, but before she does that, I'd like to remind us all that we have a float and gala coming on June 28th. That's this Thursday. And I would love persons in your various areas, because it's right throughout Manchester. The Costa spoke about it earlier. So we're starting in Newport at about 9 o'clock, and we'll be moving through to Royal Flat, Williamsfield, Porus, Christiana, Mile Gully, and of course we'll be traversing Kendall Boulevard. Anybody knows Kendall Boulevard? Anybody else knows Kendall Boulevard? Listen, if you don't know Kendall Boulevard, you need to go and know it. It is the road where the office of the Custos is. And there's a big sign, you can't miss it, Kendall Boulevard. And when we traverse Kendall Boulevard, we'll be stopping at the Manchester Shopping Center just for a little bit, then we culminate in the Mandela Park on the greens. So we'll be in the greens by 5 o'clock. What activities will be there buzzing before. So anywhere you can follow us or anywhere you can, Vision TV will be there. So you'll be able to watch us having a great time while we reignite Manchester. All right, so looking out to see you. And before Diane, you can just come up, but I want to express my sincere thanks to all of you gentlemen, and I want to wish Dr. Mackay, Sir Smith, whoever's traveling back to Kingston, please do travel safely on the road.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is a privilege and honor to have been asked to do the vote of thanks for this Antichrist Summit. It was Harry Hall who said, crime prevention is everybody's business. This evening, prevention is Manchester business. First, I want to thank the chairman, Mr. Markel Verga, for taking us through this program. Thanks to Lieutenant Colonel, the Honorable Garfield Green, Custos Rotolum for Manchester, CD, JP for doing the welcome and bringing greetings. Thanks to our MC, Ms. Sophia Morgan, JP. Thanks to our panelists, Mr. Michael Simmet, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Area 3, retired Lieutenant Commander George Overton, Security Practitioner, Dr. Jason Mackay, Criminologist, Mr. Christopher Senior, Security Practitioner, for helping us to understand the issues of crime and how to find solutions to deal with them, well as how we can prevent and protect our homes and communities and criminals. Thanks to Mr. Lennox Silverwright from the Northern Caribbean University. Thanks also to Ms. Cynthia Clark entertaining us with a cultural item. Thanks to the audience for coming out and participating in this forum. We could not do it without your input. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, this crime summit would not be possible without responses. And so we express a big thank you to our major sponsor, Guardsmen Group, Neil's Auto Service, the Manchester Municipal Corporation, Justice of the Peace for Manchester, Jamaica Ex-Soldiers Association, JESA, Vision TV. Thanks to our caterer for providing refreshments. Thanks to the security personnel who also assisted with parking of the vehicles. Thanks to the CVM Television and the Jamaica Observer. Thanks for other invited groups. Last, but by no means least, our hard-working committee members. This event, not possible without your invaluable contribution. You work long and hard for success of this event. You are awesome, simple the best. Thank you, team members, and thank you all coming and participating. God bless you. Thank you.
Yes, this is it. That's not Michael Jackson. This is it. So please travel safely back, and thank you so much for coming.